There's nothing quite like a good beat-em-up to kill some time with when you want to game and have little time to do it. The beat-em-up helped define the arcade experience, and with so many great console beat-em-ups recently released, I thought it might be a good idea to make a video talking about some of the best arcade beat-em-ups that no one is talking about. It's the summer of beat-em-ups on the Big Retro Show, so let's get to it.
The 80s and 90s were great times to be a kid. Join me as I dive into the world of movies, music, video games and toys, and explore what made these decades so great. This is the Big Retro Show.
We begin with a hidden gem that is based on a great movie. Irem Hook was released in 1992 and follows the plotline of the film starring Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook, and Dante Bosco as a memorable Rufio. Hook is a game that really surprised me. I mean, how great can a beat-em-up be that's based on a film? The answer is astonishing. This is no lightweight beat-em-up. You get to choose from Peter Pan and his Lost Boys. There's the aforementioned Rufio, the shifty Ace, the young marble-loving Pockets, and the big boy Thudbutt. As you guessed it, each character has their own fighting style and special attacks. The controls in this game are simple. You have an attack and a jump button. Pressing both jump and attack allows you to do the character's special attack. Of course, nothing is free, and using your special attack will cost you some life. I wonder why most beat-em-ups follow this formula. You can also perform grapple attacks on your enemy to help break up the action. I love it when arcade beat-em-ups include these type of attacks because it makes the fighting less boring. The game also allows you to wield weapons sporadically found in the game's 6 stages. Anywho, each character has their own speed, power, and reach. Peter Pan is the most well-rounded of the characters and fights with a sword. Rufio is both powerful and fast, but his reach is limited because he attacks with a pair of stilettos. He uses a skateboard glider for his special attack. Ace is also balanced, but stats are far lower than Peter Pan's. Thudbutt is the strongest character on the roster, and he attacks with his fist. The character that I use the least, Pockets, is the fastest character and attacks with marble. Each stage takes place in a Never Never Land setting, and you take on scores of Hook's henchmen. Like most beat-em-ups, each stage is punctuated with a boss fight. The graphics and sounds of this game are reminiscent of other Irem games, one which I will discuss further in this video. Hook isn't a difficult beat-em-up at all, if you have enough quarters that is, and you can beat the game in under an hour. It's definitely worth some quarters if you ever come across it in the arcades. Sadly, the arcade version of this game did not get any home ports. Up next is a game that I have yet to hear anyone talk about on YouTube, and that's 1996's Batman Forever by Acclaim. This too is a game based on a movie which was trash. I didn't enjoy it at all, but this game makes up for it. Batman Forever is a fast-paced beat-em-up that uses digitized character models and speech, giving the game a sense of realness. You play as either Batman or Robin to take out the Riddler and Two-Face, much like in the movie. One of the best aspects of this game is the sheer amount of power-ups and special weapons the game gives you to take out the enemies. Throughout your playthrough, you will be using batarangs, stun bombs, bat attacks, bat bolas, grapple attacks, and several others. With the sheer amount of enemies you will be taking on, you are going to need all of them. One power-up is actually a coin that, if it comes up on the evil side, shrinks you into a tiny Batman. Like most Batman movies, the mood and ambiance for this game is dark and moody. The fast-paced combat is a bit refreshing for a beat-em-up. The enemies consist of mostly goons from Riddler and Two-Face's gangs. The boss characters, except for Two-Face and the Riddler of course, are generic bosses with names like Blade, Guesser, and Zapper. Aside from all the power-ups at your disposal, you can pull off combos with the game's punch, kick, and jump buttons. Batman Forever can be beat in under an hour and will cost you some quarters to get your fix. Luckily, this game got ports on the PS1 and the Sega Saturn, but sadly, those games are pretty expensive. A copy for the PS1 runs $180 loose and $324 complete in box. The Sega Saturn version goes for $102 loose and $260 complete in box. One of the great things about doing these episodes is that I constantly discover games that I would never have known about prior. Oriental Legend is one of those games. Released in 1997 by IGS, Oriental Legend is heavily influenced by Dungeons & Dragons and Chinese lore. The game is a Chinese exclusive and was not released in the US. You play as one of 5 heroes who must save the world from demons. There's a monkey dude, Wukong, who is considered the monkey god and wields a gold-banded magic rod. He uses fire magic. The pig dude named Ba Che fights with a tooth rake and is strong but slow. He uses earth magic to dispatch his enemies. Long Ma used to be a dragon, then a horse. Now he's just a dude who wields a dragon spear to murder his foes. He uses wood magic. His sister, Long Nu, wields a dragon dagger and is known for her quickness. Unfortunately, she's not very strong and her defense is bad. She uses metal magic. Finally, there's the monk Wu Qing, who wields a moon-toothed spade and uses water magic against his enemies. While this is a weapons-based beat-em-up, each character can lose their weapon. If that happens, you can recover it, or you can just fight off the enemies with your fist. The game also lets you perform special attacks using Street Fighter II-like joystick and button combinations. This game is a colorful romp that has many interesting settings to fight in, including this underwater stage, and is probably one of the weirdest beat-em-ups I have ever played. But that's probably just because I don't understand Chinese lore and mythology. The combat is basic button mashing stuff, and you can execute combos by using the game's punch and jump buttons. The other buttons allow you to use special items and elemental attacks that you can pick up while fighting. You can carry a variety of special attacks at one time, which I thought was cool. I don't see too many games allowing you to carry several power-ups at once. The enemies and bosses in Oriental Legend is the stuff of legends. Oriental Legends. You will be facing off against a tiger head dude, the Rat King, this deer thug, red devils, and several other creatures from Chinese mythology. As you guessed, this game is going to take all of your quarters, especially if you want to beat the game. Still, this is a worthy beat-em-up if you find it in the wild. Oriental Legend received a sequel, which I may cover in a future episode. Have you played Oriental Legend? Another obscure beat-em-up that I discovered while deciding on the games to cover for this episode is Gaia Crusaders. Gaia Crusaders follows the story of a group of warriors who are trying to take down Satan, who just happened to conquer the Earth in the year 20XX, whatever year that is. The only thing that can save the world is a tear of Gaia, but the bad news is that the tear was broken into 7 pieces. You choose from 5 warriors whose mission it is to recover the tear of Gaia pieces to destroy Satan. The characters in this game are one of its strong suits. You can play as a dreadlock warrior, Fred Sathel, whose magic is fire and wind, Kohin, who wields fire, a cosplayer looking dude who uses wind, an alien dude who uses wind and fire, and Jim Isaac, who looks like he belongs in Streets of Rage and uses wind. The game also allows you to use 2 bonus characters, but only after beating them. They are bosses in the game named Rob and Cyan. Aside from the kicking and punching combos you can pull off, this game lets you stack elemental attacks as well that come in handy as you battle through the game stages. If you collect an orb that matches your character's magic style, you get a screen clearing attack. If it doesn't match, don't worry, you can still use a powerful magic attack. Pressing the jump, punch, and kick buttons at the same time will grant you a special attack that takes some of your life away. But it's rather pointless given the amount of special magic orbs that fall at your feet from enemies. Pressing jump and kick at the same time grants you a shield, also something that I hardly use during my playthrough. Because, well, it's more fun to fight than to shield yourself. My one gripe about the combat in this game is that there are no grapple moves. For the life of me, I don't know why beat-em-ups skimp on the grapple moves. The one good thing about the way that the magic attacks are executed is that they don't take away any of your life. The special attacks are all item based and you can find them as you beat enemies. The game's characters and enemies are well drawn, colorful, and fun to fight. There is a lot to look at in this game and it's the little details that add to the game's appeal. The combat in this game can get a little repetitive with the lack of the grapple button, but the inclusion of the 2 aforementioned bonus characters sort of makes up for it. Each character has advantages and drawbacks and it will take you a while to figure out which character best fits your playstyle. The game's graphics are superb. but I feel that the sound could have been mixed a little better. It's almost like the music and sound effects were mixed too closely together and it's hard to hear the sounds over each other. At any rate, this is a fun beat 'em up, and one that deserves a mention in this episode. Alas, this game was not ported over to any home console. Last but not least is a game that I hinted at near the beginning of the video when I spoke of Hook. Irem's Undercover Cops was released in the arcades in 1992 and is one of the best beat 'em ups you can play. You play as one of 3 undercover cops, known as sweepers, who take on the evil Dr. Claiborne, who has taken over the city. Bubba is an ex-professional football player who was banished from his league for being too dangerous. Flame is a vigilante who uses the hatred she has for villains who killed her lover Thomas to fight against crime. And the ex-karate master Claude, who killed a man with his bare hands for messing with his girlfriend, is at your disposal. The trio sets out to annihilate Dr. Claiborne's armies in New York circa 2043. The game uses some of the same character tropes that you find in games like Final Fight. The stereotypical big dude who is strong but slow is Bubba. The well-rounded dude, he's Claude. And the quick yet weaker character is Flame. It's a tried and true beat 'em up formula that seems to work here too. The setting for this game is a post-apocalyptic version of New York, and the food items that you will use to replenish your health are a little weird. The bosses aren't too difficult to take out at all, and you can do so while using the attack and jump buttons through the stages. The game also allows you to use a special attack by pressing the attack and jump buttons together for the cost of some of your life bar. I know it's cliche, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or something like that. Everything in Undercover Cops will remind you of other great beat 'em ups you have played before, like Final Fight and Streets of Rage, and sadly, this is probably why this game was overlooked in the arcades. But it has enough of its own charm to merit a playthrough, if at least so you can say you beat it. A version of Undercover Cops made its way onto the SNES and Super Famicom, and if you want to play it, be prepared to fork out some cash because a loose copy for the SNES goes for $114, and the Super Famicom version goes for a whopping $357 loose, according to price charting. If you ever see Undercover Cops in the arcades, I highly recommend putting some quarters in. And that's going to be it for the Big Retro Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, dropping a like, and leaving a comment. Until the next one, I will see you on the Big Retro Show.